One thing that I really hope that comes out of this pandemic is that we really start focusing on our education and our children and their ability to read, because this has been a crisis prior to the pandemic, but I think the pandemic has helped highlight the situation. And what I hope doesn't happen is that it goes by the wayside. And I will say there are two advocates here to really try to fight this issue here in Michigan, but also across the country, but to bring a face and a voice to so many of the people that can't read. We're excited to bring in Pamela Good. It's always great to have you. We've had you several times before. You're the president Beyond Basics. And Nicole Nicole, how do you pronounce your last name?
Zaremba. You got the Z part. You nailed that
I know.
part.
I will say I did Google it this morning, but that was like at 6:45.
I get it. Don't worry.
Nicole, but it's great to have you with us as well. You are also, a producer and a director for WKAR. The great thing is that you guys are trying to work together to bring a face to this problem. And because we know, I feel like if we can really reach the heartstrings of regular people in America, they can understand this problem and we can fix it for once and beyond. So before we get into the documentary, Pamela, can we talk to you a little bit more about how you even became a part of this project?
Well, we became a part of it. I guess probably, Nicole, it'd be best if you answer that, because I think you reached out to us. So I'm not sure how you heard about us, but Nicole reached out and we were pleased to participate. So
with that, Nicole, tell us more about the documentary.
So at WKAR, we are a PBS station, so we have a big education focus, especially with children's media. So I was charged with producing this documentary on childhood literacy in the state of Michigan. And so I was Googling all these organizations within the state that have been very proactive in this issue. And Pamela's organization came up, and thankfully I reached out to her. She had some great stories. There's some really fascinating and interesting people that have gone through the program. And she's a great representative and advocate. So it was an easy fit.
Yeah, we are so lucky to have Pamela and Beyond Basics in our community. But if I can ask you as well, Nicole, as someone who was assigned this project, what was the biggest thing you learned from taking part and jumping into it?
Well, what I think I've learned the most too is what Beyond Basics is doing. We're one aspect in that we can teach children how to read. And one line that Pamela delivered in the film, and Pamela, you might say it better than I can here, is that we can fix it with intensive one-on-one training, an hour a week for 6 weeks, and get these kids up to reading level. And still that sticks out in my head, that it can be fixed even if they are in middle school or high school or older, that they can still learn, even though our educational system is not set up for that.
So with that, Pamela, do you think now is the right time for this story to be told because of COVID-19 and the conversation happening around the learning? Some are saying learning loss, others are saying learning delay.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that it's a perfect time to start addressing this. One is you have attention in vulnerable communities where really you have, 80 to 90% of students in low performing, communities. I said that wrong. You have 80 to 90% of kids in vulnerable communities who are performing lowly, and so we have that attention of them. And it's interesting, people really are talking about literacy in the right way. They're talking about education loss. But the population that we're talking about that can't read in school, they don't fall behind more other than the grade ahead. I mean, without this pandemic, we wouldn't be talking about kids falling behind more and more each year. Am I explaining that right?
Yeah.
So you have learning loss of the material that's covered in a year, which honestly can be easily recovered if you're a reader. if you're already reading. And so they're talking about catching kids up academically. And I'm hoping that we can expand that conversation to now talk about what truly holds them behind. This was a epidemic before the pandemic. And so if we can kind of be close to what they're seeing and expand it so that they can see this epidemic has been going on for years. And if I could just add something, I stumbled across a report that I read years ago. There was a national study done on this. There's a report called A Nation at Risk in 1983, addressing these very issues of illiteracy and the impact, and saying it was an emergency that we address it. We did not. We did not address it as a nation. So I hope that this pandemic can shine light on it and we can get going.
And with that too, Pamela, when you reread a report from so many years ago and you see a lot hasn't changed, does it break your heart? Like, we have not made progress in this arena.
Yes, it does break my heart. And really, I realized the moment that we started getting kids reading at grade level and society, our communities, were not embracing it readily. I mean, the fact of what Nicole said, that we can demonstrate that we can take a child who can't read and get them to be a reader in an average of 6 weeks, and our society didn't embrace it. I've been speaking about this since then, 2009. And still, so it's the issue about our society, and the more people like you, Ronnie, and you, Nicole, that can start telling this story to break through that. I think that we have become a society of symptom relief, and there are cures, and we need to embrace these cures. And the other thing that the pandemic, interestingly enough, has afforded us, in Nolan Finley's word, is COVID cash. Yes. This is an expensive project. You know, it's one-on-one intensive tutoring per child, and essentially everybody attending K-12 education right now. But they have the money. They have the money at the state level, the money that's flowing through the schools. And so we can look back on this crisis in 3 to 5 years if we invest those dollars and really make sure that they're used for intensive one-on-one tutoring.
Pamela, Nicole, before we get back to you, Pamela, I'm so glad that you brought that up, because we're hearing and seeing the headlines where millions and billions of dollars are going to our schools. And this to me seems like a perfect opportunity. Before, when schools were saying they were cash strapped and they couldn't afford these programs, this is one of the programs where the money seems to need to really be going, because it's going to pay off as a community down the road.
Yeah, absolutely it will. If we can leave this pandemic and have it take along with it the cure for illiteracy, boy, is that a huge win for our society all across America. I know we've highlighted the issues in Detroit and this state, but our educational model and this flaw is the same across the nation. And so it could be a huge win for all of us.
Yeah, I think education is going to look a lot different coming out of the pandemic. Prior, 1 year ago, a year and 3 months ago, we were talking about, trying to learn online and this, that, and the other. People would have been up in arms. No way would that happen. But now is the time to talk about thinking outside the box. Yes. And if I can ask you too, Pamela, could this fall under the guidance of where some of this COVID cash can actually be applied?
We absolutely fit with all of the criteria, from the ones that say lasting impact. It's definitely a fit for where money can be spent. And we just hope that those decisions are made wisely and it's directed. It's quick. They're going to be allocated quickly. So that is the issue, going against us right now. But I hope so.
Fingers crossed, too. And I will say to anyone out there right now, especially people with kids, or even if you don't have kids, this impacts all of us. Contact your local representatives and make sure that this is a part of the conversation. Nicole, if I can kind of bring you back into the conversation, tell us more about the Right to Read, the documentary, and the process that it was to be able to get this project completed.
Sure. Well, I mean, working under COVID restrictions. Most of it was done on Zoom, as you can tell. It was over a series of months. It actually started before the pandemic. So there is a little bit in the documentary where it was before the pandemic. And it's interesting because one of the principals at the local elementary school in Lansing said, we don't know what this law will mean, referring to the third grade reading law, which I don't know if we hit on that yet.
So as a matter of fact, do you want to go ahead and talk about that? So Michigan has what is often referred to as the third grade reading law. And it was suspended during COVID. But for those not familiar with it, bring us up to speed. Because it's a vital part of the conversation in the movie, right?
Right. So all children within the state of Michigan that are in third grade take the M-STEP. And Pamela, feel free to jump in as well.
Yeah. Thank you.
And if they fail to meet grade level, they will be retained for the following school year. So this year, I believe it was suspended because of the pandemic. They still did take it. My daughter just took it. She's in the third grade. So, but actually just heard on the radio this morning that they are not going to do the retention part this year, that they might do it for fourth graders next year, because the state of Michigan did file an appeal, the Michigan Department of Education with the U.S. Department of Education to waive the test. And the U.S. Department of Education said no. But then for some reason, I just heard the news this morning that now they're waiving the retention part. So
it really is kind of a crazy law. But as you were interviewing the families and really doing a deep dive into this topic, what are your takeaways, or what are the takeaways that you want the general public to have from this film?
Well, I mean, I think it's a challenge. I mean, really, it does fall on parents and teachers, especially during this pandemic. I mean, as like a single mom working at home myself with a daughter in third grade, like the pressure was like intense, like trying to teach her and then work. And so, I mean, that was just a taste of it. So I can't imagine for, real mothers that are financially strapped, or mothers that are financially strapped, or families that are financially strapped, to try to educate their children as well. Like, we as a community have to step up, like we as individuals, like, why aren't we doing more? And is it just because we feel like, we don't want to get in other people's business or that sort of thing? But it is really a community issue.
You're listening to 89.3 WBLD Orchard Lake, 88.1 WBFH Bloomfield Hills. We're running a little bit behind, so my apologies for the station ID. And also, though, Nicole, you have such a great viewpoint on this project, because as you just mentioned, you're also a mother of a third grader. When you were talking to some of the families, what did it mean to you? And what message do you want to share?
Sure. I mean, I think the purpose of, what we do, especially in public media, is to give a different perspective, or just to see, how somebody else lives their life, or what does somebody else feel? So I would hope that, that viewers can take away their own message. I wasn't trying to say you should believe this or you should believe that, but just walk away with it with a sense of empathy. Real, like, I get that. Like, that could be difficult. That could be hard. What could I do to help? That ultimately, I
also wonder, too, how different it is for our kids today. Pamela, I think I shared this story with you before. Like, for me growing up, every Saturday morning, I went to the public library, and that was my alone time, and I could check out my books. I had my first library card at a young age. Nancy Drew, I really thought I was going to grow up to be the next Nancy Drew, and even charged my classmates 5 cents to try to figure out their mysteries of, the little kids that sent the messages, do you like me, yes or no? 5 cents, and I'll figure out who wrote that. No, but like reading in books have been such an important part of my life. But we're looking at a different age right now, too. Technology. I feel like kids don't have that opportunity to go to the library. And I know it's different because they can download books as well. But there's something about going to the library, getting those picture books from a young age. How do you see this transforming how we read and how we teach our kids? Is it going to be a plus or a minus, Pamela?
Mm-hmm. Well, I think that, it's going to be up to us ultimately. I think that technology brings all kinds of great resources. They're at our fingertips. But you do lose that relationship with a book and a story in the way when we can hold on to it. Because of technology, you would think that reading is less important, but really it's more important. We're so much relying on just a quick look at, I mean, even how to find how to drive your car and where to go, and so it's everywhere right now. Reading hasn't gone away. The needing to read hasn't gone away because of technology, and I hope that it doesn't. As they start using all these symbols on Microsoft and these programs, I wonder if they're trying to move us towards that. But there's nothing like sitting next to somebody, when you're a child and having somebody read you a story, tell you stories. And so I think as we move forward in society, we have this opportunity now. Are we going to bring those libraries? Are we going to bring opportunities to tell stories together and all of the enrichment that goes with that? Or is it just a word on a page? And we get to decide. Isn't that great?
It really is. And, I will say to everyone, we are so blessed, though, to live in America, to have the education system that we have. I know that a few years ago when we went to Kenya, the kids, their classroom was really, a dirt floor with tin sheeting. And my niece and her, classmates raised money to build a school for the girls that are rescued from FGM. But you go through the city of Detroit and you see these school buildings that have been closed and shuttered, and all that education and opportunity that was left behind these doors. And we are so blessed to have these books, and we just need to really embrace it, and also embrace these kids that are having trouble reaching out and taking advantage of everything that's available to us. Nicole, tell us more. When is the movie going to air, and how can people watch it?
Sure. It airs June 3rd on WKAR, the Lansing PBS station, and we are offering it to all the PBS stations throughout the state as well. So hopefully Detroit Public TV will be airing that. We share a lot of the same programming. And nationally. But if you want to watch it directly, it's on our website, WKAR.org, video.WKAR.org, and you can just watch it online. And I would suggest that would probably be the easiest way.
What a project that you've had such the blessing and opportunity to take part of. Pamela, any last words as well?
Well, I guess I just want to end with highlighting the students that we were able to get reading to, that Nicole and this team highlighted them in this story, because that's what it's all about. It's about the Kashan who could attend university, and it's about Taylor Rice, who could actually become a tutor to help others learn to read. And so their stories are why we need to do this for so many more kids who are trapped in a broken system. So I thank you both for highlighting this issue, and look forward to the day it's behind us.
Oh, won't that be the best thing to come out of the pandemic, is if we can
Yes.
fix this problem?
Yes, that would.
Pamela Reed with us, Nicole Zaremba. She is Right to Read is going to be the documentary again, Thursday, June 3rd at 9:30 p.m. And also, if we could encourage everyone as well, take a little bit of time and reach out to your elected leaders and let them know how important this topic is for all of us, not just those with kids, but those without kids. It impacts us as a community as well. We want to thank you for both of you for your time. We appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you.